Are you currently looking for the best smartphone gimbal? Then you've come to the right place. In this video, we take a look at 3 of the most popular gimbals currently available on the market: the DJI Osmo Mobile 6, Insta360 Flow, and the brand new Hohem iSteady V3. Which one is the best though? Well, you will find out in this video. Before we start, hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com, and for this video we have partnered with Hohem. But as always, we will give you our honest opinion, even if that might not suit Hohem at all. Let's start with size and weight. When folded, all gimbals are about the same size. The biggest difference, however, is that the engineers at Insta360 and Hohem were smart enough to build a tripod directly into the gimbal. This is an absolute advantage over the OM6, where you also get a tripod, but it makes the gimbal much bigger and you always have to screw it on and off. We put the gimbals on a scale to see which one is the lightest. The OM6 with the tripod and clamp weighs 402 grams, the Flow with the clamp weighs 401 grams, and the heaviest is the Hohem at 420 grams. We didn't actually notice the weight in everyday use, but for the sake of the comparison, we just wanted to let you know the facts. Now let's move on to the next point: handling. All the gimbals can be folded up for easy transportation. Of course, you have to unfold them before shooting, and here you can already see the first differences. I have to say that the Flow is the easiest and quickest to deploy. One turn and the gimbal is ready for use. The Flow and the OM6 also turn on and off automatically as soon as you fold it in or out. Another big difference is the way in which the phone is attached to the gimbal. With Insta360 and DJI, mine has a separate clamp that is magnetically attached to the gimbal. With the Hohem, you have to attach the phone to the fixed holder on the gimbal. We found the solution with the magnetic clamp better, as you can simply detach the cell phone from the gimbal during a break, for example, and quickly attach it again as soon as you start shooting. On the other hand, you could also lose this clamp, or I don't know, forget it at home and then no longer be able to use the actual gimbal. So both have their advantages and disadvantages. All devices have an extra light that can be easily attached to the gimbal. With the OM6 and Flow, however, you do have to buy the light separately. It costs $59 for DJI and $25 for Insta360. But the iSteady has a lot more to offer than just light, and you may be wondering what that is. Well, it's a very cool feature, and we'll get onto that just a little bit later. What all 3 also have in common is the ability to extend the gimbal with the integrated selfie stick. Pretty handy. However, Insta360 has 2 other cool features that the other 2 unfortunately don't have. All 3 are charged via USB-C, but only the Flow can also charge other devices. So you can charge your smartphone while filming or use it as a power bank. That's a really good bonus point. The Flow is also the only one with a built-in hot shoe, handy if you want to connect a microphone, for example, but Hohem has also thought a little further and has built a detachable remote control into the iSteady. This means you can set up your gimbal and control it remotely. Also super practical if you're traveling alone and want to take some footage of yourself. Before we get to the operation, there is one more point that we noticed negatively with Insta360 Flow. Unfortunately, the handle here is a good deal too short, which makes filming a bit uncomfortable for long periods of time. In contrast, DJI and Hohem have a longer handle, which is much more comfortable. Now we come to the operation. All of these gimbals have a joystick with which you can control the gimbal. Up, down, right, left. With the DJI, you can control the strength of how fast the gimbal should rotate. This is definitely a bonus point because you can make smoother movements. They also all have different modes. This allows you to set how the gimbal should be controlled. You can choose the mode where you can only pan left and right, but not up and down. The mode where you can pan right and left and up and down. The FPV mode, which gives you complete freedom and allows all movements, or the lock mode, where the gimbal is locked. Depending on the situation, you can easily switch back and forth with all gimbals. With the iSteady, you have buttons to switch between the different modes. With DJI, the same, and with the Flow, you have a touch field, which even gives you haptic feedback as soon as you switch modes. Each device also has an on and off button. They all have another lever at the back. With a double click, you can align the gimbal horizontally and vertically. With a triple click, you can rotate the smartphone once completely, and if you press and hold it, you can enter lock mode. Of course, you can start and stop recording on all devices. However, this only works if the gimbals are connected to the smartphone. All devices also have a zoom wheel or button. This allows you to switch between the different lenses on your smartphone. However, this only works if you have the corresponding app from DJI, Insta360, or Hohem on your smartphone. Unfortunately, this is not possible with the native app. You also have the option of switching your phone from vertical mode to horizontal mode. Just one click and your smartphone rotates. With the Flow, you can also do this manually and turn the phone. Unfortunately, this is not possible with the iSteady. Now we come to the important part. How well do the gimbals actually stabilize the image? Let's find out. We used the iPhone 15 Pro Max for this test and completely turned off its internal stabilization to accurately assess which gimbal best stabilizes the smartphone. We started by walking, and all the gimbals did a good job of stabilizing the video. If we have to be super precise, the Hohem and Insta360 delivered the most stable and smooth results, while the DJI was decent but showed the most bobbing up and down among the three. Next, we tested the gimbals while running. It's important to note that the vertical movement that you see isn't stabilized, since all these gimbals have 3-axis stabilization, not 4-axis. This is why many people use the ninja walk technique to minimize this movement. However, we intentionally avoided this technique to see if there were any differences when running normally. To be honest, all the gimbals produced very similar results with no significant differences. And by the way, for reference, this is what it looks like when you walk and hold your iPhone in your hand without any stabilization. Quite shaky, isn't it? So you may be wondering, how much can these gimbals really take? Unfortunately, when it comes to adding extra lenses or equipment to your phone while it's mounted on the gimbal, all 3 gimbals fail to support the additional weight. This results in the phone tipping to the side, making it impossible to shoot. While certain lightweight accessories might be manageable, we did find that adding an external lens was too heavy for the gimbals to handle. When it comes to tracking, DJI does a really incredible job at making sure the tracking point stays on the subject at all times. We tested it in various different angles and situations, and as you can see, whenever the camera goes behind an object and loses view of the subject, naturally the tracking is disrupted. However, DJI instantly regains tracking as soon as it sees even the tiniest glimpse of the subject's face. In the second example, it does have a moment where it panics and disrupts the tracking, which isn't ideal, but it does manage to find the subject's face pretty quickly afterwards. But of course, the shot would be overall ruined and potentially unusable. In the last example, however, it has absolutely zero problems and tracks the subject perfectly throughout. Next, we have Insta360, which also started off really well tracking the subject successfully. However, it does a strange zoom out, zoom in motion when the subject is hidden and then appears again. This is a bit odd and not necessarily an effect we want, so it's not an ideal situation. In the second example, however, it doesn't have any issues and tracks the subject perfectly, so perhaps it was just a one-off? And in the last example, it also doesn't experience any issues and actually tracks back onto the subject fairly quickly and effectively without any strange effects. Finally, it's Hohem's turn. It started off well, tracking me all around the benches. However, it failed to detect me crouching down behind the plant, and the tracking remained in the air, and then further failed to follow me as I walked across the frame. The same thing happened in this next shot. As soon as the camera panned away from my face and hid behind an object, Hohem's tracking did not know what to do, so it remained where it believed the subject's face was. After you see the subject's face again, Hohem unfortunately failed to do so. As you can see, the tracking performs much better when using the native app, as it can clearly follow the subject and it quickly refocuses on it again after witnessing any obstructions. However, the iSteady V3 offers a unique feature that sets it apart. It can track you without relying on the Hohem app. You can use any camera app you prefer, which means you can shoot in ProRes log while tracking, something none of the other gimbals can do. Tracking control is simplified with gestures. Make an OK sign to enable tracking, raise your hand with the palm facing the camera to stop tracking, and use both hands in L signs to reframe yourself, ensuring you stay in the desired position. These capabilities are enabled by the gimbal's built-in light, which facilitates the innovative AI gesture controls. Additionally, by rotating the light for selfie mode, you can use these features with both the front and back cameras, which is pretty convenient. All three gimbals have very similar features when it comes to their apps. Some of the most common are time-lapse, time warp, pano, slow motion, and each one has a couple of unique features like Story on DJI, for example, which provides mini video templates for you, which guide you to shoot cool-looking videos. It's very easy to use and makes you look like a real professional with very little effort. The Moment feature on the Hohem app is crafted to elevate your filming experience, providing an array of creative shooting modes and effects. These modes are designed to help you effortlessly capture professional quality videos. The Hohem Joy app also offers unique features for enhancing your photography and videography experience. To switch between landscape and portrait modes, face the AI camera and move both thumbs left or right for a horizontal screen, and move both thumbs up for a vertical screen. For shutter control, face the AI camera and use a double gesture to start recording videos or to take a photo, and do the same gesture to stop the recording. The iSteady has a 1400 mAh battery and lasts for 13 hours according to Hohem. We have not done a battery drain test, which is why we are only giving you the manufacturer's figures here. DJI has installed a 1000 mAh battery and only manages a runtime of 6.5 hours. Insta360 has the largest battery with 2900 mAh and a runtime of 12 hours. We had no problems with the runtime in our test at all, but if you know that you want to use your gimbal for the whole day, keep this in mind. All devices cost roughly the same. You can get the Flow from $146, the OM6 from $139, and the iSteady from around $130. So the price doesn't play a role in this comparison. Well, unfortunately, there is no clear winner. All gimbals have good stabilization and work well in everyday use. But there are differences, and that's what matters. However, this depends on how you use the gimbal, which is why we have summarized this for you. Let's start with the Insta360 Flow. Its main pros are that it does have the largest battery out of the lot, which is extremely useful, especially when you're on long shoot days. It also has pretty good tracking abilities and good stabilization. A few other things to mention is the hot shoe connection that it has and the magnetic clamp, which is great. Lastly, it can also be used as a power bank, which is a super unique and cool feature. However, every device has its cons, and for the Insta360 Flow, it is that the handle is a tad too small for your hand. Unless you have very tiny hands, you may get a little frustrated with the grip as it can get a bit uncomfortable. Although it has a built-in tripod, which is great, it does feel relatively cheap. Now let's talk about the DJI OM6. Its main pros are that it has the best tracking out of all of the devices. It also has a magnetic clamp, but it also has a good handle size, which is very important, especially when you're using the gimbal for a prolonged time. Some of its cons, though, are that the tripod is actually not integrated, so you do need to always carry an extra item around, which isn't ideal. It also has the smallest battery and runtime, so you would need to constantly be aware of your battery percentage while filming. It also did have the worst stabilization in our running test, even if that is nitpicking. Finally, we have the Hohem iSteady V3. Let's take a look at its pros first. In our test, the iSteady had the best stabilization, which, let's be honest, is one of the most important functions. It also has a nice handle size, and it's very comfortable to hold and use. We also have an integrated tripod, which is always a bonus, and you are also able to use the tracking mode without needing to use an app, which is very convenient. And although it does have an integrated tripod, which is nice, the legs are very fragile, and after just one accidental drop, one of the legs bent slightly. We were still able to effectively use it, but because the legs are very thin, you have to be careful when using the tripod. So all in all, each one of these gimbals does an overall good job and gives you what you want: smooth, buttery footage to enhance your already awesome content. Which one you choose is down to your personal preference and what you're looking for exactly. We hope you found this review useful, and we would love to hear your thoughts. Which one would you choose? Let us know in the comments below. Direct links to all of the devices can be found in the description. As always, give this video a big like if you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you're always aware when we upload new videos for you. With that being said, we will see you in the next video, and until then, take care.